And the broadcast is live.
Oh yeah.
We are
Sha la
live.
la 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 la
That
la
was
la la ti da.
exactly what
Now,
I was
now
thinking in
it's
my
in my
head too.
mind.
Yep.
Yeah,
The rest of the show. That's all I'm gonna be thinking about.
yeah, I know. Uh, yeah, we're
Cool.
talking about a fun one today.
We sure are. This is an excellent topic. Great recommendation. This was your idea, so I'm very happy that you spoke up about this one,
Yep.
and I'm ready to kick it off.
This
But
is one of what I like to call an application video. We
not
talk a
enough.
lot about how the mixer works, but now we get to hear it in action and how to apply this stuff to real life situations.
Yeah, which is so good. That's my favorite way to train is like put it in an actual scenario, like building up, taking the application standpoint instead of just here's the technical training, here's the technical information you need to know. It's like, okay, cool. Why do I want to know that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it feels a lot more
Exactly.
well-rounded. But
Yeah.
so we'll go ahead and we'll get into the topic in a minute here. Let's just kind of hang out for a sec and
Brad says rock and roll go. I'm
you
trying to
get
figure out how to see the comments. I can't see them right now.
you click on the thing that says comments. At least that's
Why
what I
am
did.
I
It worked.
not seeing that? Okay. Oh, at the top.
Yours might look different because you're logged in differently.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I
I
can keep
think
an eye
I've.
on the comments. So that's not a
Okay.
problem
Thank
at all.
you. Awesome.
So here we are. Let's go ahead and just dive into it. My name is Jason Fernandez. I am the live sound training specialist with QSC, and joining me today is Golden Preciado. She is a musician, a singer, performer, a front house engineer, recording engineer. She kind of does it all. She's fantastic. And the topic that we put together for you today is as we kind of set up sort of a more application-based topic. Now we're going to be talking about and discussing mixing yourself and some key tips and tricks to mix yourself as a performer while you're performing on stage, which a lot of people do. And Golden is one of them. Golden is a big advocate for this method, and she does this weekly. She's out performing. She's
Yep.
sets herself up, sets her own PA up, and she's a one-woman show. It's pretty awesome. So I'll go
Yeah.
ahead
Now,
and
yeah. Thank you, Jason.
yeah.
So once upon a time, this type of thing, mixing yourself in, was pretty difficult to do because you were the performer and you would be behind the main speakers and you couldn't hear what was going on in the house. So you might wonder things like, are all my inputs mixed evenly? Do the EQs sound okay? Like, what are my effects doing? And what do they sound like in the
How do you know?
house?
It's all guesswork.
Yeah, totally. Or is the volume appropriate for the venue? Some venues want it quieter. Some venues want you to turn it up. Speaker placement. Some venues have some really funny shapes, and you just got to figure out how to make your speakers get better coverage.
Got to make them work.
Yep. And like you said, I'm out there performing. Go ahead, let's bring up our first slide.
All right.
Yeah, I'm out there performing quite a bit. Here I am at
There she
Mikasa,
is.
one of my favorite Mexican restaurants. Ooh, and I get free food when I play there. It's
Nice.
awesome.
That's the best part of playing out live.
Yeah.
Free food and drink.
Yeah. So when I go out and play, I go out and play with a TouchMix 16 because it's really only me, myself, and I. And I bring my K8s with me.
Nice.
And when I'm hooking myself up, I go out. Can you guys see my mouse here when I'm on my mixer?
I can.
Okay. Well, my mains are coming out of my, oops, wrong one. Left main out. And I stick those into the speaker. And here I am on my speaker mode. And I wanted to show you this because when I'm using my speakers, I prefer default mode.
Yep.
And I go ahead and start from there. But I'm showing you this picture because I have made a point from now on to start plugging into the side B side instead of A, because my husband also uses this speaker for his kids' stuff. And look what was left on side A. Can
Rather
you guys see it?
precarious. I spotted it.
Yeah,
Looks
it
like
was set
the
into
mic
mic
line switch is
position.
on.
Yeah,
Yikes.
my husband was using it for a vocal. Now, if you've ever made the mistake of plugging it into the A side while the mic light is on, oh my gosh,
That is a
is
mistake
just,
you probably won't repeat.
yes, that is a painful experience. At the churches where I help out at, there's a lot of volunteers, a lot of people using the speakers, some using them as mains, some using them as the mixer on the back of the speaker. So oftentimes that light gets left on. So I just tell them, just plug into side B as a rule of thumb. That way you won't get yourself into trouble.
I tell people.
So there I am, all plugged in, ready to go. And this is the input screen on my TouchMix 16. And you can see where my faders are up. That channel 13 is where I'm plugging in my guitar. And channel 15 is where I'm plugging in my vocal.
Okay.
But I have a few other little interesting things to note in this. Right here where it says click and cues, that's because I'm not all awesome and have everything memorized all the time. So,
smoke and mirrors.
So what I did is I created click and cues track, and I have those pumping into my ears for those songs I'm just totally clueless about. And the click keeps me on track, and then I'm actually cueing myself at the beginning of each line. And it looks like to people like I'm so rock and roll and know these songs so well, which is entirely not the case, but okay. And
it's all about the show.
Oh yeah, all about the show. On channel 14, you'll see I have something marked guitar right, and I am going to get to that in a little bit because when I go out and play, I'm always running a live stream, and I use channel 14 guitar right for my live stream. But moving on, if you look at the output section, you'll see that highlighted there at the bottom is auxiliary or aux 9 and 10, and it's labeled golden ears. This is I prefer to go in ear because I'm using a click and track sometimes. So yeah, that's why that's set up. And if you look at my click and cues right there, you'll see that I have my click panned over to the right and my cues all the way panned over to the left. And what this does is it allows me to delineate better between the two. If everything is mixed up the center, I can't quite grasp what I need to from the cues.
Kind of blur together.
Yes, that's a good way to think of it. Blur together. So I have the click and cues panned apart, and that helps me to be able to hear them better. I'm also able to run my mix at a lower volume when I pan stuff apart.
Helps save the ear.
Exactly. So this picture is showing where I plug my ears in. You can see I plug my ears using an extension cable, a headphone extension cable into auxiliary 9 and 10 on my board. And I have custom ultimate ears made for myself. So
cool.
That's what I'm using in my ears. If you choose to go with the in-ear route, any ears will do. There are some great low-cost ears that are just as good, especially if it's just guitar and vocal. You don't need more than 2 drivers. But yeah, there's a lot of options out there. I just, had to go like with the Cadillac of in-ears. So I got mine molded for my own ears.
Nice. Hey, just out of curiosity, before we move too far away from the subject, what do you have in your cues track? What are you cueing off of there? Do you have or are you playing the backing tracks at all ever?
I have played the backing tracks before, but I'm not playing I haven't used cue tracks lately. If I was playing to cues, I would have created a mix I use Logic and mixed my cues and my click all the way to the left in Logic, and then mixed my tracks all the way to the right. And when I render it, since it's panned right and left, I can actually plug the left channel into one channel of my board and plug the right channel into the other channel of my board. That way I can reference my cues
You can
in
split them.
one, yeah, and split them out that way. And then now the downside is my track is mono, but if the tracks aren't too busy, which the tracks that I've played with before are usually just some percussion and strings, they're very light, then it sounds okay and it works.
Cool.
Yeah. So right here on this screen, I'm looking at my auxiliary one, and this is where I'm doing a bit of magic here.
All
It's
right.
called the stereo guitar patch. And
Okay.
for my live stream, I like to have a stereo guitar sound. Now, on a TouchMix 30, I can use the patch matrix and molt the channels, meaning I can create a double patch
Yep.
of the same channel, spread them, pan them apart, and then delay one side and create it that way. But the TouchMix 16 does not have that feature, so I have to do a hard patch. So what I do,
Wizardry here.
oh yeah. See, there's always a way to make something
Always
work.
the way.
Always, yeah.
Work around.
So my guitar, my real guitar, I don't have it plugged in this picture, but it's plugged into channel 13.
Okay.
And what I'm doing is I'm taking a cable out of box 1 and plugging it into 14,
So
the channel next
so
door.
the guitar is in your mix is obviously channel 13 with the guitars going to the house mix. You've also
Yes.
got it pulled up in this aux mix here for aux
Yes, so
1.
you can see in this aux mix that I pulled up my guitar channel.
It's all the way up
in
there just about.
13. Yeah, and I pull it up to the point to where these meters here on 13 and 14 are bouncing evenly.
Identical, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
And
that aux is connected physically back into channel 14, back in the
yes,
mixer. So you're creating a second track for your single guitar.
exactly.
It's cool.
Okay, so but we're not quite done yet. Here's the next thing I have to do. I am going to click inside that gray area and access the settings for that second guitar I just put in there. I'm going to add some delay. And in this case, I've added 7 milliseconds of delay, which equals about 7.9 feet. This is where you get to use your ear.
Yeah.
Make sure that the delay, see where it says in and it's got a blue square? Make sure it's blue. That means the delay is engaged.
Turned on.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'll just be listening to a double of the signal. If the delay isn't engaged, it doesn't create quite the effect that you want it to. So then moving on, I am now in my broadcast mix, and this is why I have those stereo guitars set up for the broadcast mix.
Just real quick before we move on to this, talking about that guitar magic track, what is the effect we want with that delay? Why are we applying delay to that second guitar track?
I want a stereo spread.
Okay.
And the reason I want it spread is so that I can have the guitar in volume closer to where my vocal is. The chordal properties of the guitar get lost in a mono settings because I have to bring it down low enough so that the vocal is heard. But when you spread out a stereo guitar, you can actually bring the guitar up in the mix higher and it won't cover up the vocal because the vocal is going up the center.
Right.
So that's why I like to create the stereo guitar.
Yeah. Giving the guitar its own space, making it wider, and your vocals right in the middle, and so they don't run into each other.
Yes, exactly. I call it the sonic landscape because I have to have a fun name for everything. But if you think of it in a picture, it's this creating your sonic landscape. So right here on 13 and 14, if you see my mouse, I have them panned hard left, right in my live stream mix or my broadcast mix, and I've spread them apart. One thing I wanted to mention is also in my broadcast mix, my effects, I'm going to show you the difference between my effects masters in the broadcast mix and in the main. Yeah. Here's my mains. They're a bit lower. And here's my broadcast mix going to my stream. They're a bit higher. And the reason for that is I'm actually using effects in my live stream to help recreate the spaciousness, wall reflections, things that I can hear with my natural 2 ears that my microphones will not hear in a broadcast mix. In many cases, you'll have to add a bit more effects into your broadcast mix in order to recreate the
Mm-hmm.
space of the feeling of being live.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I have the difference. There is a bit more effects in my broadcast mix.
Makes sense.
Yep. So moving on, this is now that I'm talking about live streaming, this is how I've got my live stream set up. You saw in this picture, my broadcast mix is 5 and 6.
Yep.
So I took outputs 5 and 6. I plugged them into an interface, and channel 5 is going into one of the interface, and channel 6 is going into 2 of the interface. I'm using an Apogee Duet. It's beautiful sounding. It's quite expensive. And then this little cable right here, this is the USB cable that has a lightning end that goes into my iPhone.
Yeah.
And the reason I chose the Apogee is because it could get into my iPhone.
Yes.
There are several other versions of interfaces that will get into your iPhone, like the iRig Duo Pro
yep.
is
I've got
super
one of those.
famous.
It's good.
But I would use the Duo Pro. Don't buy anything else but the Duo Pro. You have the XLR inputs on that. Some of the other iRigs have, let's see, RCA attachments, and then there's a mono one, which totally defeats the purpose of a stereo live stream.
Right.
So iRig Duo Pro. I also just bought a Zoom recorder. It's awesome because it multi-tracks and it fits in the palm of my hand.
Yep.
But cool. I use that for an interface at times as well. So that's how I'm getting the audio from my board into my phone.
And then on your aux 5 and 6 there, where you're coming out into your interface, you've got those stereo linked, correct? So you've linked those two together. So it's essentially one mix, and you've got your 2 outputs for that. So you can create your stereo space and your sonic landscape, so to speak.
Yes. Now that is a function that you'd have to actually do on the board.
Yes.
Maybe after I do this presentation, you could
show them. I can
that,
definitely show how to do that.
That's pretty important step, creating that stereo link and that for the outputs there.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this picture, you can see where I have my phone set up with my cool little red arrows, and I got my Apogee. It's running my signal into my iPhone. You can also see I've got my K8s. This restaurant has kind of an L-shaped spread, so I've got one pointing down one direction. I've got another speaker spaced to, kind of catch the audience where they are in a different direction.
Yep.
So I'm running my mains in mono. My live feed is in stereo, but my mains are in mono.
Okay.
So that's what's going there.
Very cool.
Now, virtual sound check. What is virtual sound check? This is the way I dial myself out. So virtual sound check is the act of recording the live multi-tracks from a band, either during a performance or during sound check, and then playing those recorded files back through the mixer and down their respective channels. And
that's a cool trick.
Yeah. Now, because I'm just a guitar player and a vocalist, mixing myself in this way absolutely works. And as long as you don't have guitar amps and acoustic drums and things that are making a lot of loud acoustic noise, you can do your entire mix from virtual sound check like this. It's
100%.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
To do this, I need to make sure that I am hooked up to my mixer, and I need my iPad hooked up to my mixer because I'm going to be walking the room to dial myself in. The little dongle that comes with my TouchMix 16 is rock and roll enough. So
nice.
There, I got it going.
Cool.
The other thing I'm going to need is, a USB stick.
There you go.
That's what I'm going to record those multi-tracks onto right there. So I stick that into the second port. Then I'm going to click that record play button, and it brings up this menu right here. This is where I'm going to arm my tracks for record. Now you'll see right here, if you can see my mouse, where it says record mode. There are actually 2 modes. You can play USB playback and multi-track record. you'll need to make sure it's set to multi-track record. So if you had pressed that button, it would give you the option, make sure it's on multi-track record. Your window should look just like this.
Yep.
And the next thing you'll want to do is arm those tracks. So I have pressed the arm button. Now I've pressed 3 tracks, the 2 guitar tracks and the vocal, because not only am I going to do a virtual sound check on the house, I need to do a virtual sound check on my live stream as well. So I have all 3 of those.
Everywhere.
Yeah. And then I'm going to press the record button. That's pretty obvious. The bullseye button there with the red dot.
Yep. Pretty universal.
And then I play a song. Now, the thing that's nice about my sound check song is I do not have the house on. The mixer is set up to record straight off the preamps.
Okay.
So it's getting signal whether I'm putting anything in the house or not.
Sure.
So I play my song and I'm not bothering anybody and I'm getting that multi-track recording done. The next thing I need to do is get my mixer ready for playback. So I'm going to unarm the tracks by pressing the arm button again. And now I'm going to press the track button. And that allows me to play back those tracks.
Right. Very important.
Yeah.
Switch those buttons so that you can hear those tracks.
So now I'm playing back my tracks. And this is where I'm mixing myself in. I would go back to the home button there. I didn't put a screen for this, but I would go back to the home button and I would mix myself in, walk around with my iPad all around the room. I would dial in my guitar and my vocal in relation to each other. I would EQ it. I would set effects that are perfect for the room. And if I have an odd-shaped room, I would make sure my speaker placement is in the right place with the best coverage. And this is another reason I like my K8s. It has a 105-degree angle of spread. So it really throws well. It throws far. So when you're in rooms that are hard to throw the sound, that my K8s are my
K8's got you covered.
Choice. Yeah.
You'll get it done.
The other thing I do at this point is I keep those tracks playing and I go listen to my live stream mix. And I would go back to my broadcast mix at that point and dial that in using headphones. Yeah. The other way you can do that is dial in yourself at home so that you have the bulk of it ready at home without pressure. And in my instance, that's what I did. I actually dialed in my live stream at home with some starting EQs. But it allowed me to go listen to what my live stream sounded like on several different devices. On a mono phone that's going to play on mono, on a computer phone that will play in stereo, on my iPhone X Max. If you turn it sideways, you hear it in stereo. So I played it on several different media to see how it was coming across. And that's how I started, with my basic settings for the broadcast mix.
Very cool. And then, of course, if you're doing that, if you're pre-setting anything or staging anything on the mixer, at home or before the gig, once you've got that all set how you want it, you can save it as a scene.
Save. Oh,
so then
yes.
you can when you get there, recall that scene and everything comes up the way you need it to be, the way you'd set it, and you're instantly ready to go. So
my computer teacher in high school used to say, SOS, save often, stupid. So yeah.
Nice.
We are gonna SOS after we get all those settings in place.
That's right. Yeah. Saving that stuff. Because even if you were to get it all set up and then just shut it down and then turn it back on when you get there, that's all fine. But just make it part of your workflow. Just save stuff, save the scenes, save your settings, save your presets.
Yeah.
So much easier. And you don't have to worry about it. You can just recall it whenever you need it.
Yeah, well, my husband and I play at various other churches leading worship, so we have several scenes on there. So yeah, it is super important that we save our scenes because we have different ones on there, and yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, moving on. I brought this screen up because I needed to remind you to untrack the button when you're done. You have to take the green buttons off by pressing the track button again, because when you're in track playback mode, audio is not passing through the channel. So you'll go up to the mic to talk and there's
nobody
nothing.
can hear you.
So make sure you take the track mode off before you start your live performance.
Nice.
Okay, so this is a fun thing that I have
Yes.
going.
Excellent. Yeah.
When I'm playing by myself, I do not like to touch my electronics. To me, it's distracting and it doesn't look professional. I like to keep the ball rolling. And a lot of times I'm playing my guitar while communicating with my audience. Now, when I'm talking, I don't want my vocal effects on while I'm talking. So I've created a USB MIDI foot switch patch that I step on to make the vocals go away while I'm playing my guitar.
Yeah. The vocal effects go away. Yeah.
Yeah, the vocal effects go away. Yeah. So I'm going to show you how I set up my MIDI buttons. I have 2 MIDI buttons going here. I have one for reverb, that is my vocal reverb. And when I step on that, it toggles my vocal reverb and delay off and on. And then I have the band mute.
Cool.
Between sets, I will step on the band mute and bring up my background music, and that'll keep those channels muted. So this is how I set it up. First, I have to set up a mute group. I'm going to talk about my vocal effects first.
Okay.
And I have to put my vocal effects in a mute group. So I'm going to click that mute group button, and then it brings up the mute group window. Then I'm going to press the edit button, and it brings up what you can put or what you can choose to put in that mute group. And you can see that I have it assigned to mute group 4, and I labeled it effects mute. But if you look at the bottom, I highlighted only my vocal delay and vocal verb. I did not put the guitar verb in it because I want to keep the guitar reverb on it while I'm talking.
Cool.
So that is how I set up that mute group. Then I set up a band mute group. You can see over at mute group 1 where it's highlighted. And I've chosen all the inputs.
Yep.
Yeah. So that I can toggle that all mute button on my USB MIDI controller. Now I am going to assign it. Now that I've set up my mute groups, I'm going to assign it to my MIDI switch. So I'm going to press the menu button on my mixer. Then up comes this screen, and I am going to select MIDI, which brings up this screen.
Yeah.
Now, where the red arrow is pointing to the my effects mute button. I kind of cut off the square. I didn't mean to, but this,
it's all right.
I labeled it my mute effects.
We can still get it.
This is where I put in my actions, and you can see that my action is that I want to mute something, and then in my selection side, I want to mute or toggle a mute group, and then over in the detail, I told it I want to toggle my effects mute group that I set up.
Cool.
So then my next step after I select what I'm going to do with it is to go click the Learn MIDI button. And then this sign comes up. It says, waiting for incoming MIDI message.
Very important.
And this is where you're going to go over to your MIDI controller, and you're going to step on or click the button that you want to belong to that thing. In this case, the vocal effects. So I clicked it, and now it's assigned to that button. Now I need to confirm that I'm going to assign it. So I'm going to click the assign button. The mixer asked me, are you sure you want to do that? I'm like, oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Didn't even have to ask me. But it's a nice thing that it did.
It's just polite. It's just making sure.
My mixer's being polite. Yeah. So there I am, and I'm set up. And you can see that when I step on that MIDI button, look at the bottom of the screen, you can see that when I step on that MIDI button, it's toggling and turning it on and off.
Very cool.
Now, some of you are going, why is it not red? Why is it orange? Mutes that are red, you actually muted directly from that page. If your mute is orange, that means that you muted it from some other place. In my case, I muted it from a mute group and not from the channel directly. And that's why it's showing up in orange. Yeah.
Same would happen if you were muting channels through a DCA or a subgroup, or even if you have, a channel muted like in the, in your main mix, and then you go into an aux, that those mutes within the aux will show up as yellow like that because the aux you didn't mute them on the channels in the aux, they're muted from your main.
Yep, exactly.
just one other little detail, that your foot switch, that is a USB to MIDI foot switch.
Yes.
Correct? Yeah.
Yes.
So that
It's
is,
a
and just about,
USB. It's made by Logity. Yeah, it's a
nice one.
USB MIDI foot switch.
Yeah, and that is, and just about any MIDI controller that has a USB output that can serve MIDI over a USB will work for these types of functions on the TouchMix, and all three models are capable of doing stuff like this. So I use a like an 8-pad Alesis big drum trigger controller thing. Yeah, works awesome. So very, very cool application.
Yep. Nice. So here I'm setting up the MIDI for my all band mute, and you can see that I've told the actions to use the mute group for my all band mute.
Yep.
And then I run through the same process, learn MIDI, go over, and it says I'm waiting for the MIDI message. You go over to your MIDI foot controller, press the button that you want to send the message. Now I'm a stickler for labels. Labels are a good thing.
They are.
Because if you get
They're
flustered during something or whatever, you can look down and see your labels. Labels are awesome.
You, press here for this.
Yeah. So I assign it to that third switch. And now I'm going to press the assign button to finalize it. The polite mixer asks me if I want to assign that MIDI message to chosen action. I'm like, yeah. Sure. And so there I am. I'm all set up.
Very cool.
And
well, that
I forgot what I wanted to do with this.
Well,
you can see as I toggle through my MIDI switch right there at the bottom how it's muting both. Yeah.
Yep. Gotcha.
That's pretty much the end of. There's one more thing I wanted to show you. I'm going to run over to this page.
Okay.
On one of my effects, I have reverb assigned to my in-ear mix. You can see here, aux 9 and 10 is golden ears. I put some reverb in that, and there is a reason for that. I don't normally like reverb in my in-ear mix because I want to just grasp every tone and every pitch, and I don't want to hear any wetness. But when I'm playing by myself and mixing myself and I'm using my MIDI foot switch, because I can't hear the house, I need to know whether the reverb is on or off. So that's why I have assigned right here a little bit of reverb to my ears. That tells me if, if my switch is in the right place.
Yep, it's working.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Is what I have on my guitar. That's the gist of it. And what I have is a video to play of one of my live streams. I put a demo together of various places that I've played and
all right, cool.
Did a live stream. So Brad, if you could just play 4 small clips.
And then we can address a couple questions that we got in the comments here.
Awesome.
Cool.
Oh, give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around. Oh, give me one reason to stay here, and I'll turn right back around. Sha la 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 di da. Sha la 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 di da. Set me free, leave me be. I don't wanna fall another moment into your gravity. Here I am, and I stand. So, oh lady, I'm running down to the riptide.
Cool.
So yeah, that's an example. I'll post that link if you want to hear the whole thing in the chat. I'll also post some of the links that I saved for interfaces and helpful links for
other helpful gear links and stuff like that.
Am I allowed to plug myself? Like do a plug for myself?
I'll say why not.
Yeah, so if you want music for a private party, whatever, go to musicwithgolden.com. Musicwithgolden.com.
Cool. Very cool. Well, awesome presentation, Golden. It was very thorough, nice kind of run through of of your setup there. So kind of just to recap it, really the key is to, or the main things are to know your equipment first of all. Have a pretty clean setup method, and then and as far as getting your mix dialed in, what you're doing with the virtual soundcheck is a great method for being able to get out and actually hear the room, hear the house speakers, and hear how it's sounding and get that dialed in. Obviously, for a larger ensemble, or when you've got like you mentioned, if you've got guitar amplifiers on stage or an actual full-on acoustic drum set, that method is a little less reliable. So
there is a way to make that happen, though, but it requires the musicians that are making all the acoustic noise, like drums and electric guitar amps. It means that they need to stay playing with the track.
So like if you're,
and then some person who's doing front of house can go get out there and balance it.
That's right. So the lead singer, or somebody that they can run a track of their performance. You go outside in front of the house with the iPad, while the remaining members, like the drummer and the guitarist, are on stage and they're playing along with those tracks, so you get a better sense of everything and how it's all going to work and sound on that stage. But yeah, and then once you've got that kind of dialed in, you're more or less off and running. Once you start performing, you're kind of just trusting that that sound is being maintained, for the most part. But you do have the ability, depending on your position in the band and your instrument that you're playing, to make small, fine adjustments on the fly. And it's cool. It's a lot of fun. It's a very common practice these days, from what I understand. And I myself I'm not as cool as you, but I do a little bit of mixing from behind a drum set. I'm in a particular band where I have a tendency to run our rehearsal audio. I don't mix live shows, but I run our rehearsal audio from behind a drum set. And I know that is a common thing for drummers. They're stationary, they're sitting down, so they get stuck with the mixer in the back, and someone needs something that turn around, hey, I need more reverb, or my vocals are too quiet.
I actually work with several bands who, when they're on their own, are doing just that. So yeah, the drummers are like the ones with the knowledge, right?
We're the guys, yeah. The guys running the show, so you're just laying down the backbeat and running the show.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of cool little tips that I found useful when I learned about them that I'm going to share in a minute here. I think let's go ahead and answer a couple questions here, though. We've got a question asking about an external controller with the TouchMix 30. So the TouchMix 30 does have the ability to connect with a physical fader DAW controller pack, and it operates through, I just forgot the protocol, Mackie Control. Mackie Control Protocol, I believe it's called. Most controllers, most fader packs or controllers that are capable of operating with that will work with the mixer. We have not validated many of them. Of the ones we've validated, what's it called? There's one made by Icon, IKON, and it is called I'm gonna have to look it up here. I just blanked on the name of it. Do you remember what the name of that one is, Golden?
The Icon is the one that I've worked with.
Yeah. What's the name of the actual controller?
Oh.
I'm looking it up in real time. We're live on the internet, and I'm Googling stuff.
Icon Plus, Jake Wright.
Icon Plus, thank you.
Thank you, Jake. You're awesome.
Rad. Jake, saving us there. So that's what I would recommend if you're looking for that. That one, it just out of the box, it just works. It's mapped very well. All of the
perfectly mapped.
Yeah, and this paradigm of it matches what you see on the screen. So it's an 8 fader controller, or it's a 9 fader controller. So you've got your 8 input faders, and then it's got the 9th one, which serves as the output fader. It's got mute controls, it's got pan controls, it's got gain trim controls on it, and it's got a full recording transport control, so you can, and everything's out of the box, connects right away, and is already mapped. So that one is a good one to use. So that's what I recommend for that question. What else we got here?
Okay, don't know the name, but he's asking about
Stereo spread.
sharing about the stereo spread. Now,
Yep.
I actually put the link to my presentation in the
Okay.
chat. So what you can do is download that and go screen by screen and see how I set that up. While you could do it while watching the video again, because it'll be on the website. Yeah.
Absolutely. How to get to the software. Which software are you referring to there, David? Got a question from David from Facebook's asking how to get the software. If you're referring to the control software for the TouchMix, that is a free application you can find in the App Store for your iPhone or your Android device. Just search TouchMix and it'll come up. Cool. Okay, so real quick, I wanted to kind of show off a couple things from the perspective of mixing from behind a drum set. So I actually have a camera set up on my mixer here. It's a little dark, I apologize. But hopefully you can kind of see what's happening. So just I'm not going to go through kind of everything that I do, but there are two features that I utilize a lot that are really helpful, that I find really helpful as a drummer trying to mix audio and play drums. And those are the DCA groups and the user buttons. Those are my personal best friends when I'm doing what I do. And again, I'm just mixing rehearsals, and what we have going is I have a drum set, and I will mic my drum set very modestly. I'll mic the kick. I'll put an SM57 on the snare, and then I'll just hang a single overhead and kind of just blend those three mics together. Mostly for myself, I wear in-ears when I rehearse, and so I like to have a nice kind of mix of myself in my in-ears. Then we have two lead singers, which alternate, two additional backup singers, and whichever lead singer is not singing lead on a particular song, they will also join the backup singers. So at any given time, we have a lead and three backup singers. We've got a keyboard that I run through the mixer, two guitar players, and a bass player. So what I will do is I'll stick my drum set on a DCA, and the DCAs can be found here. It's the last fader bank option on the TouchMix. It's DCA groups. And I'll just choose an unused one here. Looks like I was demoing something else. This was labeled system. But I'll enter into a DCA, and kind of just like the page Golden showed with the mute groups, this is virtually identical. So we're just simply going to name the group. Very important. Labeling is very helpful. And then we're going to use our assignment buttons here to assign channels to the DCA. So I can do that here. I can just say drums. Wow, those were not the letters that I wanted to press. All right, well, it's drums, and then clearly I'm using this mixer for other applications at the moment, but I'll just pretend that I've got 9, 10, and 11 are my three drum set microphones, and then I've got that set up from there. I've got kind of my DCA fader, so if I need to, give my drum set mix a little more in the house or bring it down a little bit, I can do that with a single fader, which is very, very helpful when you're basically like trying to play a beat, and then you got to reach over with one hand, and you got a drumstick in your hand, so you're kind of just using a single fader to try and navigate around in real time. Being able to just kind of grab that one slider and go up and down is very helpful. Additionally, another thing that I will do.
You're ambidextrous.
That's right. I will go into the menu here, and I will assign one of my user buttons to select my DCA fader. And I do this, I extrapolate this out often, but so the first thing I'll do is give myself my volume button. And I do that very similar to, again, what Golden showed with the Midi setup. We're going to go into, I'll do that one more time. I'll go into the menu. We'll go into user buttons. And then I've got my user button assignments up here. So I'll select which button I want to set up for this function. In my case, I'll just do user button 1, which is physically found right over here next to the wheel. And then I'm going to say I want to select a input fader. DCA fader, and I want to assign that to my drums DCA. So I'll hit the green assign button. There it is. It's politeness in all its glory. I'll confirm that I do indeed want to assign that, and then I can go back up to my mix. I can be on any other screen at any other given time, whatever I might be doing at any given moment. If I need to grab that button or I need to grab that fader and make an adjustment, I can reach over with the drumstick in my hand. I can press user button 1, and it automatically grabs that letter for me, and then I can use the wheel and make my adjustments. I actually don't even have to interact with the screen, which makes it really easy and simple as a drummer.
Yeah, that big knob is a lot easier to use.
So it's just, this, adjust that.
One button and knob, yep.
So I'll do that for myself. I'll get, and then I'll use the other two I'll set one up to grab whichever channel is my lead singer. Well, lead singer 1 and lead singer 2. I've tried to get them to use the same microphone because that would make this so much simpler. But no, they've got to have their own microphone. So I've got 2 different channels, and they're going back and forth between being a lead and a backup. Okay, so at any given song, before the song starts, I need to make those adjustments. And again, so I'll just take my lead singer 1 channel, assign a user button to grab that mic channel, and then another one to grab the second one. And then whatever I need to do, I do the same thing. Okay, this guy is going to sing for this song. So I grab his microphone, turn it up a little bit, grab this one, turn that down a little bit to kind of rebalance the mix appropriately. And then I'm off and running. So that's a really cool couple of features that you can utilize in tandem to make it a little easier.
Whole thing on user buttons.
Yeah. The user buttons are so fun. And that's not the only application I use them for. I use them for all kinds of stuff.
Creating awesome workflow, and that is an awesome workflow.
Yes. Love it. So that's more or less kind of just what I wanted to get on. You covered the majority of it. I just wanted to give a little bit of a different perspective to the application, as I'm kind of being stationary and mixing a little bit more dynamically kind of throughout the performance and how you can do that. Very cool. I think before we close us down here, I saw a couple more questions come in. Updates. Okay. So can I use the TouchMix software to mix sound for a microphone, drumstick, guitar, and keyboard? Well, yeah.
Talking about a submix? Is that what he's?
Yeah. The question's a little vague.
Yeah.
I think the word software is kind of throwing me off. So what we're showing here is a TouchMix. It's a physical mixing console. And so the software lives in the console. So you're using this as a digital mixing console. So it is going to be your mixer, and this is what the tool you're going to use for, creating your mixes and creating your sub mixes and creating your broadcast mixes and everything that Golden showed. And then there is a control software that allows you to remotely control your mixer using a tablet device. So that's, I think, what needs to be explained up front. And then, yes, the rest of the question is yes, you can absolutely use the TouchMix and its software to set up microphone, drum set, guitar, keyboard, audio, and then that's what it does. It mixes all of your audio channels.
He said okay, so I think you answered his question.
Very cool. Question updates. Can't really answer that one directly, but I can say keep checking back. We're always kind of reevaluating and looking into the feature set and taking feedback from the users and things like that, and trying to just make sure that we're got it up to the highest standard that it can be at all times. So definitely kind of keep checking back on that one.
Yep.
And then the same account asked for some stems of us playing so that they can practice mixing. I can actually hook you guys up with that. See if I can find a link here.
Do you have brown bottle flu in a?
I do.
Dropbox?
I have a full tracked performance that I can share with you. So you'll get all the direct instrument tracks that you can load up, and I can help you.
So real quick, while he's looking those up, I wanted to let you know about a couple helpful Facebook groups that we have.
Yes.
We have the QSC TouchMix group. So if you own a TouchMix or are interested in owning a TouchMix, or even if you don't own one, but find yourself mixing on one, then this is a very informative group and you can talk about everything TouchMix. The other Facebook group we have is hosted by QSC and myself. It's called Church Sound Training. And the group was actually created for church sound people and their volunteers. But the audio concepts that are taught here, they are universal and applicable across the board, because adding to your audio knowledge and understanding helps you to operate your TouchMix and all other audio equipment with better skill and precision.
Yes.
And I know we have NAM going on right now.
Yes.
Believe in Music virtual.
Shout out NAM.
Yeah. So we have Chris Brulette, is that how you pronounce it? Chris Brulette, who is teaching a course on managing low frequency radiation. If you are already signed up for NAM, that's on Thursday, January 21st at 10:50 a.m. Pacific time. So you'll want to log in to see that teaching. I'm teaching a class on how to optimize your worship service mix for broadcast and live streaming. As you know, in today's world, many churches have never live streamed, and they are treading on a brand new frontier here with this. So I show you best practices for broadcast mixing and live streaming, and I shoot out 3 different options and ways that you can do it. And that's on Friday, January 22nd, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. So hopefully you can join in on those. Now, I don't know about Chris's, but mine on how to optimize your worship service mix for broadcast and live stream, I'm going to be reposting into our church training, our church sound training Facebook group on Monday the 20th, I believe it's the 25th. Okay. So if you missed it at NAM, you can catch it inside our Facebook group.
Cool.
And that covers it on announcements.
All right. Well, unfortunately, I'm still searching for the link to this here.
We will get it. It's going to be, he will post those tracks, even if it's a little bit after the fact.
That's right. Yeah. Even if we shut down, I'll post them after the fact.
Yeah.
The chat stays open. Cool. Why don't we just do that then? I think we're good. Any other last minute questions anybody has here?
Oh, so David is asking about being part of that church training group. Let me see. I'm going to post that link in the chat.
We'll continue to post a few links on all.
Okay, go into it right now. I got to go copy it, so hold on. Get in there.
For our topic here, I think we about covered it. Very good. Okay, so I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, Golden. That presentation was awesome. From very useful information.
Thank you.
That was helpful for everybody out there. And please join us again for our next Tech Talk. We'll be broadcasting again, I believe, in about another week or so, and we'll have a brand new topic.
Right.
And we'll have a lot more fun. Cool.
Yeah, it's been fun, Jason.
Yes, indeed.
We'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.